All right, let's jump right into this explainer. Today, we are unpacking a really masterful, deeply emotional character study by the celebrated author Ruskin Bond. It's called The Thief's Story. Now, what makes this piece so absolutely fascinating is that it's not just some standard tale about a heist. Not at all. It's a vivid, scene-by-scene psychological battle between a young boy's deeply ingrained urge to steal and his profound, sudden awakening to learn. We're going to break down the mechanics of trust, the heavy weight of deception, and the incredible literal power of a second chance. Settle in, because this gets incredibly intimate. To truly understand the gravity of this narrative, we need to plunge directly into the narrator's mind. For a second, I want you to put yourself right in my shoes. Listen to this. I was still a thief when I met Anil, and though only 15, I was an experienced and fairly successful hand. Just let that sink in for a moment. You are seeing the world through my calculating eyes, a teenager who survives entirely by his wits, his ability to manipulate, and his knack for evading the law. So, Section 1, the mark at the match. Okay, let's dive into this. How does an experienced 15-year-old thief actually operate? Well, Hari is scoping out his next target at a wrestling match. He zeroes right in on a guy named Anil. Anil is about 25, tall, lean, and crucially, he just looks easygoing and simple enough to be the absolute perfect mark. Hari walks right up and uses a classic manipulator's tool, a little flattery. He tells Anil he looks like a bit of a wrestler himself. Then, without missing a beat, he lies about his name, introducing himself as Hari Singh. We actually learn that Hari takes a brand new name every single month just to stay ahead of the police and his former employers. Crazy, right? And the real hook here, when Hari asks for a job, Anil admits he has literally no money to pay him. But Hari, ever the calculator, offers to work just for food. Which brings us to a massive theme here: trust. It's that firm belief in the reliability or truth of someone. And this is the exact vulnerability Hari fully intends to exploit. I mean, Anil doesn't run a background check. He doesn't interrogate this stray kid. He just takes a penniless, smiling stranger straight into his home. It's this blind trust that makes Anil the perfect target. Well, or at least, that's what Hari thinks at first. Moving right along to Section 2, Education versus Deception. You can see a really stark contrast here that perfectly maps out Hari's internal conflict. On one side, you have Hari's old, deeply ingrained habits. He lied about his name. He lied about knowing how to cook. In fact, his first meal was so terribly bad that Anil had to feed it to a stray dog. Plus, every single day, Hari is skimming about a rupee from the grocery shopping money. But look at the other side. You have Anil's gifts. Instead of kicking Hari out over the awful food, Anil just laughs, pats him on the head, and teaches him how to cook properly. Even more importantly, he teaches Hari to write his name and promises to teach him whole sentences and how to add numbers. Deep down, Hari realizes that once he can write like an educated man, there will be absolutely no limit to what he can achieve. Yet despite all this incredible kindness, Hari's life is still entirely defined by deception, concealing the truth for an unfair advantage. While Anil is barely scraping by, making money by fits and starts, borrowing one week, lending the next, writing for random magazines, Hari is still continuing his petty theft. Hari even quietly notes that Anil probably knows about the skimmed grocery money, but he just doesn't seem to mind. And it's this unearned grace that silently, slowly begins to weigh on our young narrator. Now the tension really starts to build. Section 3, Shadows and Stolen Notes. 600 rupees, all in 50s. One evening, Anil comes home with this little bundle of cash after selling a book to a publisher. He tucks the money right under the mattress. Now, Hari hasn't done any real work in his line of business for nearly a month, and the temptation is just massive. He rationalizes his urge to steal by telling himself, hey, I'm out of practice. And besides, if I don't take it, Anil is probably just going to waste it on his friends anyway. The visual atmosphere Ruskin Bond paints here is just incredible. Picture a room filled with high-contrast shadows. A beam of moonlight steps over the balcony and lights up the bed. Hari creeps slowly across the floor. Anil is sleeping soundly, completely peaceful. Hari notes that Anil's face is clear, unlined, and totally free of worry. But then, in sharp contrast, Hari realizes his own face, even though he's only 15, is already covered in marks and scars. It's like a physical manifestation of their contrasting souls. Silently, Hari's hand slides under the mattress and he draws out the notes. But right in the middle of this heist, I want you to pause and ask yourself the exact psychological question Hari is grappling with. Is a careless man worth robbing? Hari actually hesitates here. He thinks about how robbing a greedy man is easy, right? Because the greedy man can afford it. But robbing a trusting, careless guy, someone who might not even notice the money is gone, Hari admits that it actually takes all the fun and pleasure right out of the work.
But spoiler alert, the thief wins out. Section 4. The Lucknow Express departs.
Hari flees the apartment with the notes tied tightly at his waist. And notice how rapidly the timeline shifts here. His plan is to catch the 10:30 p.m. express to Lucknow. He dashes straight onto the platform, completely ignoring the ticket office because, well, he's never bought a ticket in his life. The train is just starting to move out. He could easily jump into one of the carriages. But he hesitates. For a reason he can't even explain to himself, he just lets the train go. Suddenly, the rush is over. It's late night. He's wandering the deserted bazaar totally alone. By midnight, he's sitting at a clock tower, shivering in the chilly November rain. The adrenaline of the theft is totally gone, leaving him with nothing but cold isolation. Sitting there in the dark, let's step back into my mind, into Hari's POV for a second. In my short career as a thief, I had made a study of men's faces. A greedy man shows fear. A rich man shows anger. A poor man shows acceptance. But when he thinks about Anil discovering the theft, Hari realizes Anil's face will only show a touch of sadness. And it won't be for the lost cash. It'll be for the loss of trust. That realization, right there, is exactly what kept Hari's feet glued to the railway platform. Out in the freezing rain, we hit Section 5, Damp Notes, Internal Redemption. This is the moment it all clicks. Feeling the dampness of the stolen money through his clothes, Hari has this massive awakening. He thinks, whole sentences I knew could one day bring me more than a few hundred rupees. In all the excitement of the heist, he'd completely forgotten about his lessons. Stealing is a simple matter, he realizes, and getting caught is just as simple. But to be a really big man, a clever, educated, and respected man, now that was something entirely different, and it was worth infinitely more than 600 rupees. And that is exactly what redemption looks like. The action of saving yourself from error or evil. Hari decides he has to go back to Anil, just for the chance to learn to read and write. He makes this highly nervous trek back under the clouded moonlight. And he notes something really profound. It is so much easier to steal something than to return it undetected. Shaking, he creeps to the head of the bed, finds the edge of the mattress, and slips those damp notes right back where they belong. Which brings us into the sunshine. Section 6, Morning Light and Forgiveness. And this brilliantly illustrates the climax. Hari wakes up late the next morning to find that Anil has already made the tea. Anil stretches out his hand, offering Hari a 50-rupee note, telling him he made some money and will pay Hari regularly from now on. Hari's heart completely drops to the floor. But when he touches the note, he feels it. It's still wet from the night's rain. And then comes the absolute kicker. Anil calmly says, "Today we'll start writing sentences." You see, Anil knows. That wet note proves he knows everything that happened in the dark. But neither his lips nor his eyes show it. He chooses silent, incredibly powerful forgiveness over punishment. At that moment, Hari looks up and smiles at Anil. But guys, this isn't that calculated, forced, appealing smile he used back at the wrestling match. No. And the smile came by itself, without any effort. It is a completely genuine, pure expression of gratitude from a boy who has finally stepped out of the shadows. So as we wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with a provocative question to chew on. What is the true value of a whole sentence in your life? Think about how the promise of education, when it's combined with the unyielding power of someone simply choosing to trust you, can completely rewrite the story of a person's life. It's an absolutely remarkable takeaway from Ruskin Bond's work. Thank you so much for diving into this breakdown with me. And hey, keep seeking out the knowledge that builds your own whole sentences.